Good day, family. Welcome back to my channel, Nourishment 101. I know it's been a minute since you've seen me in this type of space, and it's because I don't know if you guys are aware right now. Well, of course you're aware because you're on my channel. If you're on my channel, I know you're aware that there's a lot of different low vibrational energies kind of invading your space right now. And so get your shungite, get your obsidian, get your stones that protect you, that kind of help you ward off some of this negative energy, because right now you need it more than ever. So let's get into the video, which is why I am vegan. I've been vegan for about 8 years. I didn't jump on a fad. It was because my body was speaking to me, telling me that if I did not stop eating meat, that I was going to develop disease. And I had started seeing the signs and symptoms of some backed up energy that wasn't able to flow right. So I made a conscious decision for myself to just stop eating meat. If you've watched my holistic nutrition videos, then many of you know that I have a family history, especially on the women's side, of fibroids, cysts, a lot of different ovarian and reproductive issues on the women's side of my family, my mother's side. So I was next. Most of the women have had to have hysterectomies or have developed cysts at a very young age. I didn't want to go through that. So I started asking questions like, what do I need to do? And I was asking myself. I was doing research. I was just being quiet, being still, and listening to the answers that came. And that's something that I've learned to do, is be quiet and be still, which is why you guys haven't seen me in a while. So the answers started to come to me about just not eating meat. Maybe it's the food is what kept popping in my head. Maybe it's the food. I was like, well, that's the one thing that we all have in common, is we eat the same foods. So maybe that is where I will start. And sure enough, once I changed my diet, I stopped eating the meat, everything began to clear up. I stopped having skin problems. I seemed to have reversed all the issues that I was having. Also, like my my hair changed, my hair texture changed. And then eventually I stopped bleeding every month like most women do. Now there's a process to that I want to share with you. And if you haven't seen my other video about why bleeding isn't natural, go check it out. But I do want to get more into detail with you about that, because there's so many things about the body that we haven't been taught, that we've been miseducated on, and intentionally misled to believe, because it's profitable for us to be ignorant. So let's get into one of the main reasons that, or one of the second main reasons that I stopped eating meat, besides it helps me avoid a long family history of having reproductive issues. Many of you may not be aware that cysts are a collection of toxins in your body that your body is removing from your bloodstream to keep you alive. No matter whether it's in your breast or your ovaries, or whether it's on in your brain, cysts can appear anywhere. Sometimes it's on people's faces. Sometimes it's in your head. This is a collection of toxins that your body has removed from your bloodstream to keep you alive. And as you all know, being animals and mammals, we store toxins in our fat. Okay? We're no different from a cow when it comes to that, from a fish, or from whatever type of land mammal that we eat, from pigs. We're no different from those animals, those other mammals out there. They store toxins in their fat. So if you understand anything about energy, you know that it can't be destroyed. It's only passed from one object to the next. Well, whenever an animal is tortured, and let me be very clear, they are being tortured. There's no regard for their life. They're knee deep in shit all day. They're confined in small cages all day. The babies are ripped away from the mothers at such a young age, right after birth, and they are raised on food that basically is unnatural to their bodies. Whenever you're not in your natural habitat and you're eating a diet that's unnatural to your body, that's foreign to your body, it immediately begins to cause disease. It causes information to be spread to your cells that keep it from being able to reproduce and have a natural life cycle like it's supposed to. And yes, cells have cycles like we do. They live, they breathe, they reproduce, and then they die. But what you eat determines how successful they are at that cycle and how long they live. Well, the same thing with your bodies. Once I started changing my diet and stopped eating meat, I noticed that I was aging a little bit slower. I've been gone for 17 years. And when I came back home, most people that I spoke to, that I saw, that I grew up with, were like, "What? Why do you still look the same?" In my eyes, I don't look the same. But to them, it looked like I hadn't aged much at all. And it's because of my diet. Everything goes back to your diet. So once these animals have gone through this horrendous process and you eat that animal, there's a transference of essence here and energy. Some of your nightmares that you have are not even your own. A lot of the different ailments that you experience today, whether it be arthritis, you have kidney failure, diabetes, liver issues, thyroid issues, fibroids, cysts, digestive issues, all of these come from what you allow to go in your temple. And I can't be any more upfront about it, which is why I have the tone that I have right now, because it's serious. It's a serious matter. So the torture, the pain, the suffering that those animals go through is transferred to you. And when you feel heavy, when you feel depressed, when you feel, a lot of this is coming from your diet. Now, there used to be a way that an animal was killed back then. And they used to actually, our ancestors, they knew that you give thanks to that animal for, first of all, before you even put it in your mouth. It wasn't so much like saying a prayer, "God is great, God is good, let us thank you for this food. By his hands we are fed, thank you, Lord, for daily bread, amen." It's not like going through the motions. It was actually feeling thankful that that animal was able to sacrifice its life so that you and your family can eat. Not only that, animals that you hunt are in their natural habitat. They're eating foods that are natural to their bodies. So that animal is healthy. The animals that we eat today in these CAFOs, which are confined animal operations, farming operations, something like that, they are actually not, they're confined in small spaces. They're not able to roam around to get sunlight. From the moment they're born, they are raised in a factory, and it is brutal. So these are not the same animals that our ancestors were eating. Before you even kill an animal, you have to be, the animal is not able, they're not able to see death coming in its natural habitat, because they're eating, they're not aware that they're being hunted, obviously. The reason that you want to hunt an animal versus have it raised up in a confined environment, it's because when you get ready to kill an animal in a confined environment and it sees death coming, it releases hormones. Those hormones spread throughout the animal's body. And those are hormones of stress and fear, which is the number 2 emotions plaguing most Americans today. Stress and fear keep all of your operations in your body from being performed properly, as well as it limits the availability, the ability to think clearly and calmly. So when you hunt an animal, the meat is it tastes completely different because there's no stress hormones released throughout the whole entire body of that animal because it doesn't see death coming. This is important. And then, as a sacrifice, you give thanks for that animal because it is completing the circle of life. It is feeding a family, and it is part of the food chain. You know, we are at the higher part for a lot of animals, but there's some things out there that are hunting us, believe it or not. And these are not necessarily things that you can see because humans, we have the ability to live in different dimensions. And by that, I mean that we vibrate at different levels. Our vibration can be low or it can be high, depending on your thoughts. Your brain is able to receive signals and able to transmit them out. And so is your hair because it's connected. Your hair is, I can't even begin to tell you about your hair and what it does for you, but just know that it's not just for decorative purposes. It is actually, it has a function. Everything in your body and on your body has a function, even your skin, even your teeth, even your nails. And so, ladies, when you're covering your nails up with that fingernail polish, even though it looks good and that acrylic, it looks good, but there's a reason that those women in that beauty shop wear mask over their face. There's a reason that their hair is thinning. You know, those are poisonous chemicals and those do seep inside your bloodstream because your nails are porous. There's so many things that I can't begin to tell you that I've learned by being a holistic nutritionist. Things that we were never taught, things that I've been told through just being still and learning how to listen to my body and learning how to receive the messages that I was born with. And we all are born with programmed cells. Our cells are not empty, they have information in them. And this information can be tapped into when you're still and when you listen and when you eat properly. So, the reason I stopped eating meat is because, first of all, I'm not killing it myself. I'm not hunting it myself. And if I'm not killing it or hunting it myself, then I don't know what that animal went through before it died. I just don't want that type of energy in my body because once you start eating meat again, and I've gone back and forth to the point where I was just like, I'm done. Because I noticed how much better I felt without it. And then when I started trying to creep back in and start eating it again, I immediately have felt the effects because now, since I've gone without it for years, my body is even more sensitive. It's just like if you are smoking marijuana every day, you have to have more and more and more and more in order to feel the effects of being high. Whereas if you smoke once a week or once a month or once every few weeks, the moment that you smoke again, it's just like your first high all over again. I know many of you are able to relate to that, and it's why I use this example. Yes, nobody is trying to, encourage you to do something that you don't want to do. I just want to inform you that there are consequences to just eating whatever has been prepared for you without knowing where it comes from. That's huge in the holistic world. Why? Because energy never dies. Again, some of the thoughts and the feelings and the heaviness that you all are feeling and the nightmares, they're not all of your own. They're not all of your own. Some of this is coming from what you take into your body. Once you take into something like this is a sacred place, this is a sacred space, this is a holy space, and what you allow into it, it's up to you, but just know that it's going to have some effect on you. There's nothing that you can take into your body that won't negatively affect you or positively affect you. And life is not about good or bad. Energy doesn't necessarily, is not labeled as good or bad. It is cause and effect. because for every cause, there is an equal effect. There's an equal exchange of energy for whatever you put in, because whatever comes out is going to match that. So this is what math is all about. This is what solving equations is all about. It's about the input and the output. Knowing what you input or what you put in is gonna give you a certain output, basically. So holistic nutrition is coming in tune with nature, coming in tune with what's natural and what causes you or prevents you from spending unnecessary energy. This is why when you start becoming more in tune, you cut people out of your life that don't help you, that don't serve you, that take away from you. You start to notice those things. Whenever you start becoming more in tune with nature, you also learn that everything that you surround yourself with, everything that you do, that it has it has its own essence. It goes out into the universe, and there's something that will come back to you based on what you're putting out. So it's not just on a food level or a mathematical level. It's every single action that you take in your life. If it's careless, then you're going to get something back to you that is careless. And when you sit and you think and you wonder, why is my life the way that it is? It's everything to do with you. It's everything to do with how you live your life. I'm not saying to live your life any certain way or to live your life like me. Please don't get that mixed up with my message here. It's simply just to tell you that you are what you think you are. It's all about the mind. As a matter of fact, the first Hermetic principle is all is mind. Okay? And mind is everything, really. Mind controls everything. The universe is mental. I probably butchered that, but that's the gist of it, is that the universe is mental. When you think about it, you're inside of a living organism. The earth is living. The sun is living. It's an entity. The moon is living. It's an entity. All this nonsense about the earth being a rock, the moon being a rock, these things move of their own accord. They don't need man to move. They don't need man to show up, to appear. These are things that have been around long before man and will continue to be around long after. So why not look to them for advice? Why not look to them for information and understanding? Because they have more understanding and information than anything that you would ever know or come to contact with. All of the elements do. Water, earth, fire, wind, the sun, the moon, the trees, all of these things are living. They have spirits, and these spirits can be connected to if you just be still and ask. Don't be afraid and don't feel strange when you're talking to something that you have been taught is an inanimate object, because everything has life. Everything. So I put my head to the earth the other day, and I was kneeling down, and I just had this thought. I was like, we're always looking up at the stars and at the sun and admiring how beautiful everything is, but we never look down and say thank you to the earth for being underneath our feet. Not only does it hold us up, but it gives us a place to lay down. It supports you in so many ways. So I just started an experiment. I started laying flat on my back, and at first it hurt. I'm not gonna lie. I have a tent in my backyard, and I go out there, have some mats down, and the tent is porous. Water can come up, from the ground, and you can feel wetness on the surface of the tent. So it's not just like made out of plastic. But when you lie down flat on the ground, on the tent, it's the ground can be forgiving, and it can be unforgiving. It just depends on what mindset you're in when you come to her. And I just speak to the earth as a her, because once you understand what it really is and you allow the earth to speak to you, you'll feel that it takes on the characteristics and the warmth of a mother. Because the longer you lay on that ground, the more the earth starts to cradle you. It starts to soften up, and then your spine begins to be aligned. I I've never understood why people in the past could sleep on the ground until I got my ass down there and laid for hours. I immediately fell asleep after the earth started to like adjust my spine. It is the chiropractor of all chiropractors. Let me just say that. Because there's nothing else hard enough to support your spine and flat enough to support your spine besides the earth. And yeah, if you construct a wooden bed. And now I understand why people in Asia sleep on hard, flat surfaces. I never understood that until I laid on the ground in this tent. And so I immediately, well, I would say about 15 minutes in, the earth started to feel soft. And then I noticed that I started to just like feel a tremendous amount of love, for lack of a better word. It felt like it was hugging me, and it's something I needed. I really did. And then you start feeling these cold, kind of like, I don't want to say daggers, but it felt like cold spurs just going up through different parts of my back. It was very cold. And I realized, oh, that's energy. That's energy being transferred. This is what grounding means, guys and queens, kings and queens. This is what energy transference from the earth means. Get your ass on the ground if you're sick. Get you a tent out there in the backyard and lay flat on the ground. This is holistic practice as well. Because the longer you are in tune with nature and you are eating proper foods, these thoughts come to you. I used to call them downloads, and I still do. But I would get downloads. If you look at my earlier videos, I would say, oh guys, I had a download. This is because of my diet. I was receiving information on a different frequency than I was able to receive before. I noticed that this was allowing me to tap into the Akashic records. This was allowing me to tap into that vast, unlimited amount of information that's out there. Because what you put in your body helps determine your vibration. You know, whether you have, when people say I'm vibing, or I have good vibes or bad vibes, that's what they mean. Their frequency is either high or low. And depending on what your frequency is what you're going to be able to receive, whether it's divine thoughts from the atmosphere that give you this life-changing idea that you can monetize, or whether you just realize that some shit for you that you've been doing all your life has been bad for you. It doesn't matter what the information is, just what's important is that it's going to be good for you. So get you a tent. You don't have to have a tent. Just go lay down on the ground. Either way, you will be able to receive energy that will help repair all the damage that you've done to you and your body. There's a documentary about grounding I saw a long time ago, and it's about a small town where all of them, I think there was a guy who was in a wheelchair. He wasn't able to walk for years. He started grounding, and he was able to start slowly feeling the nerves back in his legs, started standing up, began to take a walk, a step, and all of that came from grounding. So do not underestimate the energy that comes from the earth. All I could do at that moment, once I woke up from the ground and I realized that I felt so much lighter, was be thankful. So, yes, I got on my knees and I put my forehead to the earth and I spoke to her with my mind, saying, "Thank you." You don't have to be around anybody. You can do this by yourself. As a matter of fact, it's better if you do it by yourself, because then you're not showing off in front of anybody. You're not trying to be something that you're not going to feel weird, when you're by yourself. Because when you're by yourself, you're able to actually receive the information without being distracted by anything or anyone around you. So, make a practice of looking down to the earth and saying thank you for being solid up under my feet, for allowing me to be supported in any way. Be thankful for the food that comes from the earth. Most of you can't, because you're not eating food from the ground. You're eating processed food from the shelves in grocery stores that have been there for God knows how long, and then you wonder why your body can't recognize that food and break it down and digest it, and why you are getting backed up and your gut is expanding. I've had 2 children, and yes, my stomach is flat because I give my body 16 hours to digest. I don't eat before 11 o'clock, and I don't eat after 7. So these are very important. It's intermittent fasting, but I've made it a daily practice. Fasting is so huge. I don't know where I would be right now without giving up the ability to feel full all the time. I needed to understand where hunger was coming from, and not all hunger is natural or real. Most of the time, the things that we eat cause us to be hungry, and we're not even aware of it. Your toothpaste can cause you to start craving things if you have the wrong toothpaste. Your deodorant. There's so many different things that I want to share with you guys that I just don't have time in this video. So if you have a subject that you want me to speak on, just drop it down in the comment section. I do read my comments. I do respond. I appreciate the interaction. I love you all. And, I hope that you guys get a lot from the information that I'm sharing with you, because it takes a lot of time to edit these videos. No, seriously, but not seriously. It's just because I like sharing, and I like the information that I have. I know that it's not common, and it's because most people today are trapped in a space where their thoughts are not their own. Once you begin to become holistic, and what I mean by that is whole, okay? Once you start to take in whole foods, and you stop taking supplements and pills and all these other different things, and you eat the food itself because it's already whole, then your body changes, your mind changes, your thoughts change, literally. And that phrase, "you are what you eat," that quote is so literal. So many of the sayings that I used to hear when I was younger, they make more sense now. But once you start changing the way that you look at life, life changes the way that it treats you. And that's with anything. When you look at something that has a label and you limit it to what you've been taught it was, then it can only be that to you. When you take off the limitations, and you take off the labels, and you take off you take out the programmed information, then everything is allowed to be so much more than what you were taught or what you thought it was. So this applies towards being holistic. It's not something that is a trend. It's something that eventually uplifts your life. That means pay attention to the songs that you listen to. If there's anything in there that's degrading to another person or another sex, or anything that talks about harming, someone, which is a lot of the music that our kids listen to today. If there is anything about heartbreak, and yes, we can relate to these things, but do you want to listen to a heartbreak song every day? I literally had to stop listening to some of my favorite artists, such as Tony Braxton and um, Tamar Braxton, and they all have these just very, even her, the artist her, like a lot of her songs are just about heartbreak. A lot of SZA songs are about heartbreak. A lot of these artists are not in control of their own music. Keep that in mind. And this perpetuates a low vibration of feeling heartache and feeling, even if your relationship is good, believe me, if you keep listening to that music, it's going to go down in a matter of time. So you have to shelter your ears, you have to shelter your eyes from seeing scenes that could affect your emotions. Why? Because this is how stuff becomes real. Once a thought gets enough energy, it becomes a hormone. And once energy enters your bloodstream as a hormone, it affects everything else. Hormones control everything in your body. So once a thought enters your bloodstream, it becomes a hormone, and then at that point it's over, because somebody else is in control of your thoughts at that point. So you have to be very careful about what you eat, what you hear, what you see, what environments you put yourself in, and you feel what you put on your skin. You have to be careful about all of that. But to go ahead and end this video, yes, there's so much more I could share with you, and I will, but right now you just need to understand that what you eat is more important than anything else, because that starts it. So be mindful and watch what you put in your body, beloveds. I love you, I thank you, I appreciate you, and if you know somebody that needs to hear this, share. Until next time, peace.